All right, let's look at the issues of higher education now, as you've seen the protests at CPUT, but also the crisis that appears to be deepening as far as NSFAS is concerned. Let's now speak to the Higher Education Minister, Buti Manamela, spokesperson Matshepo Seedat, who's joining us to look at some of the challenges and what is being done to try and stabilize the situation at NSFAS. Matshepo, good evening to you, and thank you so much for your time. Perhaps we start with just NSFAS. I'm going to get to CPUT in just a moment, but when one reads the article you've penned on the NSFAS matter, you agree that the condition of the NSFAS is a national embarrassment, but one asks, what is happening right at NSFAS has also left the president concerned. So who exactly is failing to do their jobs here?
Thank you very much, Bongiwe, for that. I think indeed, as per the article I wrote, that it is quite unfortunate, the challenges that we have at NSFAS. They are not new, and indeed, various institutions have spoken about those challenges. But these are some of the things that I think the minister has been seized with since his appointment. From when the Auditor General raised the issues of students who are deceased that are being funded and ghost students and all of that. I don't think that we can say it is one particular person or one particular administration. These challenges have been there for a number of years. And therefore, that is the reason why the minister felt that it's necessary to intervene and ensure that the institution is stabilized and that students are not disadvantaged by the challenges that the institution faces.
Isn't that the problem, though? And I understand the crisis predates the minister and his predecessor. We've been speaking about NSFAS for quite some time. But I remember at some point NSFAS was under administration. Freeman Nombalo, for example, was the administrator at some point. So surely this perpetual crisis can no longer continue. And we can no longer continue to have an argument that says this predates the minister. The minister is now acting. At some point, we have got to see accountability and see these people who are making it possible for some people to defraud the system being brought to justice.
Absolutely. Accountability is important, and we should hold those that are responsible for the crisis or the challenges at NSFAS. But that also does not mean that we stop, the necessary steps that need to be taken, because we do know that the minister has to act lawfully, no matter what corrective measures he puts in place. And the administration was a lawful instrument that was available to the minister for him to put the institution under administration. And given the situation as is, we work with the current leadership of NSFAS to ensure that indeed we move to a place where we are moving from crisis and to a stable NSFAS that supports all the students that are beneficiaries of the system.
So two questions arise from what you've just said about this lawful process. The first one being what the court had to say when it ordered the reinstatement of the remaining 7 NSFAS board members to govern the scheme pending the final review of the case later this year. The judge says, and I quote in part, to place an administrator in charge of the NSFAS whose response to corruption is questionable and who has a poor track record in a position of trust at SARS does not augur well. It cannot be in the interest of NSFAS to be governed by such an administrator. That's what the judge says in that one part. How has the minister responded?
Well, of course, the minister respects the court and the judgment, and as we said, is looking at legal remedies to the situation. But we must also remember that the judge did not make a judgment on the minister's decision to place the institution under administration. And so that remains that a part B, obviously, of the court judgment. And just to put it on record, the NSFAS Act does allow a minister to put an institution under administration when he sees that they are not able to perform their responsibilities and ensure that the institution does what it is meant to do, and that is to give funding to students so that they can access higher education.
So the second part then becomes the students. I was in conversation with SAUS and they disagree. They actually say that, yes, they understand that the minister has got this option, but for them, NSFAS was beginning to stabilize, and they do not understand why the minister needed to resort to the option of an administrator, because in their view, they say things are working. These are sentiments that are also shared, and I've spoken to him as well here on the show, and that is Mr. Teboho Letsie, who is the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, who also echoes the sentiments of the students to say that, in fact, what the minister did here was not something that the minister should have done. They both agree that the minister should have waited, because it seems that things were stabilizing. Even the students going as far as to say that their queries were receiving action with immediacy. So now this particular process has caused a lot of worry for them. And I wonder if the minister has been able to consult or even speak to the students to try and get their views on this entire process, because just as early as last week, they were quite upset still.
And of course, the students, the NSFAS serves students, and their student voice is very important on these matters. But having sat with the Auditor General of South Africa, and indeed also the meetings that we've had with the Public Protector, and also the directives that he had given to the management and the board of NSFAS, and even with that, from the minister's point of view, the institution was not stabilizing from where we stood. But also, we had a board that kept on shedding itself, that ended at 7 members out of 18. And those, with all the big responsibilities that the institution has, it was quite unfortunate that the governance structure was not allowing it to be able to do what it does. And we believe that that was the right decision for the minister to take, but also a lawful decision. But be that as it may, Bongiwe, the board is back. They face the same challenges that the public protector spoke of. And right now, all we need to do is move towards that stabilization that they're talking about, and to ensure that the institution gets to the point that it needs to get to.
As a final one then, the situation at CPUT, we saw protests, and even with the SRC saying that, for them, the fire started a long time ago and not now, when they saw, the administrative block also being impacted. They speak about how the requests and, for engagement have been there, but it doesn't seem that things were dealt with in a genuine manner. So things got to a head, as we saw a couple of days ago. Where are you with that particular process, and how are you addressing the issues there?
Yes, Bongiwe, the situation at CPUT is quite concerning. Currently, the minister has appointed a team to engage with all the parties at CPUT, and that's the students, the management, as well as the council of the university. The team is on the ground, and they've had meetings and engagements. Some of the students did walk out of the engagements, but we are in the process of that intervention, and we really hope that every party, the students included, will come to the table to be able to resolve the issues. And I think some of the university has made some concessions to try and resolve the situation and normalize the situation at CPUT so that students can go back to class. And we really hope that with the intervention that the minister has put in place, we'll be able to resolve that situation. We are told that there is a council meeting taking place tomorrow. And after the council meeting, they will report back to the minister and we'll be able to make some decisions. But as the minister has said, that if everybody can exercise some restraint and ensure that there's no violence and intimidation and really damage to property, because that does not get us to where we need to go.
All right, let's see then what happens as you continue then to try and resolve the situation there. Appreciate your time. Thank you for that update. That is the Higher Education Minister, Buti Manamela, spokesperson Matshepo Seedat, speaking to us about the issues at NSFAS as well as CPUT. You heard there, she says they are trying to now resolve the crisis at NSFAS and also at CPUT as well. So we'll continue then to keep you posted on this developing story.